explosive start to this match from Chris Melling. A big break. It's the Magician versus Scott Gillespie.
Always the biggest match of the night, isn't it? And it's come out a little bit congested here for Chris.
Congested, but in a strange way. I think these almost pick each other apart.
Yeah, I think the two below the 8 ball go independently, and if he gets to the right-hand side of straight on one of them, he might play a little nudge into the 8 ball. Well, he's not hit this, or he's either not hit this or he's not happy with the connection, but he's nowhere. He jumped off it straight away.
Grimace.
You know what that means here. Gives himself a second to look annoyed, and
then the cogs start turning.
Yeah, calculations are happening here. He does have a series of systems, as a lot of American players do, for this sort of shot.
It's not a bad effort. The crazy thing is we set the bar so high for Chris, and because he's pulled off so many amazing shots before. But to even, you know, hit that ball full in the face, still a pretty decent achievement from the position he was in.
Yeah, and it's creating angles to go at it from the right way. Obviously a lot easier to hit the yellows, but you've got to go into it from the 3 cushions if you want to knock it towards the pocket, which is why he goes that expansive way. But he'll be very frustrated, because you were right, even though, you know, it looked a congested layout, that was very much an opportunity to get out and get off to a good start here in the key match. Big visit for Scott now, because that red at the bottom, it's very awkward. Now, he has an angle now, play into it, or preference would be to play under it. Play into it, no guarantees to knock it on or be on anything. He might just have a shade too much angle to play right centre and go underneath it from here. And he also then now makes the choice that maybe that's his last ball. So the positional shot onto his final red becomes the absolute key here, which means the positional shot before it has to be precise, because the room isn't really there for him. I'd like to get to the right-hand side of the red to left centre, the bottom red of the 2 in the middle of the table. From that was what I would want as my last ball, or penultimate ball. Not far from where he is now. Maybe if that stopped a couple of rolls short. Fortunately, he'll leave the other one in the middle of the table, which isn't ideal if he tries to stud down for it now, and I think he might have just gone that roll too far. So this is all of a sudden awkward. The plan was to leave the angle where he could just screw the gap. He's got too much, so come 2 cushions towards it, I think. Don't know if he can nip this, but he can certainly go 2 cushions. Well, maybe from the overhead, maybe he can just nip it, but I think the 2 cushion shots are on. Oh, he has got too much angle, so it will be 2 cushions. Needs more pace. Not quite. Can he see enough to pot it top right? Or is it right centre? Maybe it's right centre, it's unbelievably thin. How about that? And what an outcome.
Wow. Those ones can hurt your opponent.
Oh, he's hit that break really well.
He's hit a couple of those tonight where he's really flushed them.
And look at this layout. Really nice. Made break clearances in both his break clearances in the first match. Both his breaks rather from the first match. opportunity to do it here as well, make it 3 straight, 6 straight visits. First shot might be the trickiest actually on review. Does he have a good opener? Not really. Thin to left centre, but where's the control? Is it just about okay? Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. It's not as thin as I first thought.
Yellow ball's in play.
Not the best positional shot though. It's not where he wanted to be. Might have to take the yellow bottom right, either the hampered queuing one, or he can go for the one directly below the cue ball now. He's going the hampered queuing route, and he's not a big fan of the hampered shots. He says he's no good at them at all, but he made an unbelievable one in the Players' Championships a few weeks ago. That one was a little bit more routine, but he said it's a shot he's not particularly comfortable with.
He's also obviously dealing with the issue with his hands, talked about a few times tonight. So he's been battling with for all his life, basically. It's a couple of allergies that really just can make playing pool very, very difficult, make doing anything with his hands very, very difficult when it flares up. And an annoying thing to have as a occupational hazard. But essentially, to coin a phrase often used in sport, but very seldom used in a sport like pool. He was playing through the pain barrier the last tournament we saw him in, which made those shots even worse. But you can see what difference it makes when he feels confident and has full faith in his abilities, and all he's got to worry about is what he needs to worry about.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily on the match table where yes, it hurts when you're obviously using your hands on every shot, touching the table, gripping the cue and all that, but it's the lack of practice you can put in, because you're not going to play in pain on the practice table. You'll go through it on the match table in big tournaments, but so you're not going to be quite as sharp potentially, but he certainly looked sharp tonight. I think his hands are close to back to normal. He was saying earlier on when we chatted to him off air that he played his first round of golf of the year, so it was always nice to know that the golf game's back up and running.
Yeah. It's a good sign for him.
Yes. As is that. It's a nice shot. Use the red, control and hold the angle. This is a nice angle to get onto the 8 ball.
Takes his patterns quite uniquely, does Scott Gillespie. Doesn't necessarily go in the order which a player like Chris Melling would go. But in a format like this, you chuck in an X factor like Carl Morris, which can be like chucking a Mento in a bottle of Coke at times. You know, you just never quite know. And
I think if Carl Morris is going to win an Ultimate Pool title, he's capable of winning anything he enters, of course he is, as a former world champion, but you feel like it's a Champions League is maybe one of the big favourites for him.
Here we see Chris Melling playing his version of Angry Pool. And it is great to watch. He does make the game look very, very easy when he plays it like this.
Hasn't chalked his cue, hasn't taken his hand off the cue, he's just walking around point shoot and making the game look ridiculously easy.
Not many players in the world can do that.
Just exactly what we're talking about when you say he does things other players can't do.
And he's going to be let back into the match here. It only takes a dry break sometimes. Scott hit these nicely. Hit them really nicely.
Yeah, roach the choice. These are laid out really nicely as well. Connections are good. Say connections are good, as the red at the furthest bottom of the table would make more sense in terms of the connections if it went bottom right, but it might not, but there's no bother to get to it the other side, of course. But That's probably why he's not quite. He's got his line wrong there, although he's still absolutely fine here. But I think that's why you're not seeing him try and clearing up the same way, same style he did in the previous round. There's just a little bit more to think about the bottom end. He's actually landed perfectly to deal with the bottom end of the table and then go back up. If he finished a few more rolls up, he may well have gone top corner, then the right centre, and the one he's just played might have been his last ball for the 8 ball. No bother going this way around either. That's why I was talking about the connections that were so good. They're just all connected together at the top end of the table.
Now he can fly through quick as you like. It's 2 each.
If Chris Melling was to win this match, because it means he'll go into the match against Chris Melling, knowing beating him guarantees a 6-red shootout. Scott Gillespie was to win, which he now has a chance to go back in front. Then Carl would need other results to go his way, as well as beating Chris. Yellow at the top of the table. Oh, is there a pocket there? Top left. In fact, he's taking yellows on. Tells me it probably is. Reds were doable, blocking each other a little bit at the top, but not a lot. I think you can clearly see there on the overhead. The yellow to top left does go. I think he's on the yellow to the top right to drop it in and play on it straight away. He doesn't need to play the plant then.
15 seconds shot.
I'm sure that's the best shot that Scott's ever played. Has he left any angle at all? Maybe a turn or two. Pops out a little cleaner. Probably pops out a little bit more, has that little bit more angle, so he doesn't have to force this one. Forces it well though. Straight enough here just to screw back on line. No, you could use the top of the table, but I don't think he needs to. Yeah, he was straight enough just a little bit. When he came to the table, this was never really going to be his last ball, but also no problems with it being the last ball.
High quality affair this, as we enter the latter stages. Scott Gillespie is chewing a little bit of clock. He's not just psyching himself up for this 8 ball, he's waiting. Very tidily done, a 3-2 advantage for the Scotsman.
Oh, let's try again. Oh, Scott can't believe it. As good as he's played tonight, come to the table thinking this is your chance to win the match. And the dry break means he goes away from the table thinking, I might not get another opportunity to do anything in this match. I could draw it, I could lose it. There is time for Chris to go back to back here.
And that will be the fear. That might not be the best shot Chris ever played. I think he's fine. A little lucky there.
The layout's now good though, isn't it? Just one good positional shot to land nicely on the red on the right hand side, but it will be the last ball onto the 8 ball. There is a little bit of margin of error for the shot. sure this is the best angle to get where he wants to. Yeah, had to force it. No, played it beautifully. Lovely shot. Well, Chris is running clock here, which is really interesting. It's Chris's break next.
Tidily done.
No advantage, or is he? Or is there an advantage? Is he? Are we now seeing Chris kind of on a higher level of clock management here? This is really interesting because 1 minute was he left just under 140. Plenty of time for Chris to make a break clearance. That's right in his wheelhouse.
Chris cut breaking. Don't see this too often. 8 ball on the move. He's going to stay up. What a cut break that is. How often do you see a lead like that off a cut break?
First shot might be the toughest here, and it's not tough. I think Scott will fear the worst here. He's played all but flawless on the night, and he's going to need help because Chris Melling has a wide open chance here to round the match off.
Tough school. Scott Gillespie hasn't done anything wrong, and he's about to get beat. Chris Melling, brilliant. And the Magician puts himself in pole position in the Champions League as he looks to secure passage through to the semi-finals. Brilliant performance from Chris Melling, who wins it 4-3.